Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the cute town of Olympia, home to the original Olympic Games. So it's my, I got here yesterday, so it's my first, I got a full day here. So I'm going to go down and get a coffee, of course, but it's a neat little town. Now I'll go over here because they do a really nice cappuccino for €2.50. So it's 10:15, the town wakes up a bit late, a lot of them are still closed. This will be bustling with people later. Endless tour buses, another one coming. Yeah, I found this really interesting, the things that the ancient Greeks invented. The automatic theatre of pylon, the cinema of the ancient Greeks of 3rd century BC, the first use of belt-driven motion worldwide. Pulleys and belts. First application of springs, hydraulic valves and hydraulic controllers in human history. 3rd century, hydraulic valves and controllers. First use of pistons and cylinders worldwide. Pistons and cylinders. What else we got? The programmable puppet show of Heron, 1st century AD. Programs at autopilot. The repeating catapult of Dionysius, 3rd century BC. The first application of motion through level chains worldwide. The nut fabrication machine of Heron, 1st century AD. The hydraulic clock of Ctesibios, 3rd century BC. The first application of gears, tooth rules and perpetual screws. Amazing. So here's the old archaeological site, and this is what I thought was a snake going across the road. I saw one slithering across the road, and then I saw a dead one, and it's called the Greek slow worm. So we're going to go down to this archaeological museum here. It's supposed to be amazing. Some of the reviews reckon it's the best museum in Greece, and I'm not too sure about the ticketing. I think it's €20, but it gets you into a couple or more museums as well, so we'll see what's happening. Yeah, €20 to get in, which gets you into some of the other museums. €10 if you're over 65. Eighth century BC. Amazing, 7th century BC, and I don't know if the camera picks it up, but it's quite, the engraving's quite intricate. This is the stuff I like. Bronze Corinthian helmets. Yeah, 6th, 7th and 8th century BC. This is about 5 pairs of gods, and what do you say? Gods and giants fighting, 6th century BC. Century BC. Zeus carrying Ganymede from Troy to Olympus to bestow on him eternal youth and to make him the god's cupbearer. Alright, I think we're on our way to the original archaeological site of Olympia. Wow, it's massive. I wasn't expecting it to be this big. So this over here is the gymnasium from 2nd century BC, training area for practice in foot race, javelin and discus throwing. Blah blah. This is over here. So this was the Prytaneum, 5th century BC, rectangular edifice restored on several occasions, dawn to the later Roman times. It was the seat of the dignitaries of the sanctuary who were responsible for the sacrifices carried out at the altars. In the interior of the building was also housed the hearth of the goddess Hestia, where the sacred and everlasting flame was lit. Here the guest of honour and the visitors at the Olympic Games were feasted. Oh, it really is a whole city here. The Philippines Olympia. Its construction began by Philip II after his victory in the Battle of Chaironeia in 338 BC and was dedicated to Zeus. After Philip's death, it was completed by his son, Alexandra the Great. Outer colours. Temple of Hera, end of the 7th century BC, the oldest temple of the sanctuary, among the best specimens of archaic Doric temple architecture. The original wooden columns were gradually replaced by stone ones. According to legend, here was kept the disc of the sacred truce. In Roman times, a statue of Hermes made by the sculptor Praxiteles was positioned in the cellar. Monumental fountain from 2nd century. It just goes on and on. This is a stadium from the 5th century BC. With estimated 45,000 spectators. And in ancient times, the size of a stadium was a standard used for, like we now know, miles and acres and kilometres. Well, they used to use stadiums. So this is a stadium. So this is where it all happened, the origin of the Olympic Games. Imagine those people 2,500 years ago sprinting down here. Wow. Must be the starting blocks up this end. Right. Gonna have to have a little bit of a run on the original Olympic track, eh? Might kill me though. Shall we? All these young ones thinking about it. Oh, they might be doing a relay race. There's people down the other end. I'm gonna have a little go. I wonder if I can make it to the end. I'm going to make it, you know. There we go, I won. Not bad for an old bugger. So track dimensions between the stone starting and finishing lines is 192.27 metres by 28.5 metres. That must be the width of the track, but 192.27 metres is the length of the original Olympic track. So this is from the Ptolemaic age, following the death of Alexandra the Great in 323 BC. They were sponsors for the Olympics around 270 BC. But impressive pillar.
Now, up where the other people are walking, they belong to 3 small sized buildings.
So over here we've got the remains of a building where temporary residence of the Emperor Nero, who lived at the sanctuary during his participation to the Olympic Games of 67 AD. So the Emperor Nero stood where I'm standing, and I think it said on there this is the remains of the bath. I mean, there's so much going on here. There's little rooms, sort of rooms all over the place. Probably had water coming through here, maybe, because they were great for diverting water for the baths and everything, weren't they? Aqueducts. So this is the council house from the 5th and 6th century BC, meeting building for the Olympic Council. Here the athletes and the judges took the sacred oath before the beginning of the games. Yeah, all the spare stones and everything for the reassembly. Well, this here is massive. You got to use your imagination a little bit, but this would have been all pillars. All pillars. Well, it looks like this must have been a moat. There's an inside one as well. Maybe for just decoration or maybe bathing. They were big on their bathing and baths, Roman type baths. So this was the Leonodian, end of the 4th century BC, large rectangular building for the accommodation of the officials, built about 330 BC. It was named after the architect and donator Leonidas from Naxos. The rooms are arranged between an interior peristyle court of Doric order and an outer Ionic colonnade. In Roman times, the central court was converted into an open air swimming pool, and that's what we just walked around. And this is what it looked like. Here, and here's a temple of Zeus, 470 BC, what's remains of it. So this column was restored by the German archaeologists for the 2004 Olympic Games. Look at them, 1, 2, 3, they go all the way around. How massive it must have been. So this here is the Palastraya. 3rd century BC, within a central court surrounded by colonnade and enclosed by roofed areas, sectioned off into special rooms for undressing, anointing the body with oil, powdering it with dust, baths, etc. It was a training area for practice in wrestling, boxing and jumping. Here also philosophers, orators and poets used to give their lectures and communicate their ideas. Right, well this has been a fascinating site. It's just huge. Size of a city really. So there's still so much more to see here. There's a museum on the history of the Olympics. But for now I want to find a cafe and sit down, and I've done miles of walking and running a race as well. I won the race. So yeah, we'll go back into town, it's not far. Time for a little rest in this beautiful little courtyard on the corner of the main street. I mean, isn't this nice? These amazing trees. Time for a coffee. And I might get something to eat as well. The prices aren't too bad here actually. What's that? Burger and fries, €7. That's quite cheap for a tourist town. But I'd rate Olympus. I didn't rate, where was the last time? Sparta. Didn't think much of that. But Olympia, what a neat little town. This is where we are. That's Albania up there, this is all Greece, Athens over there. So we're on the west coast of this island thingy. Just having a bite to eat. Before I go to the museum and discover a bit more about the history of the Olympic Games. If you look at my previous video, I walked around the ancient site, amazing site. I actually ran on the track of the original Olympic Games. I won my race. I was the only one in it, I still won it. So yeah, it's going to have a bite to eat, then we'll go and have a look at the museum. Ah, thank you. Lovely. Yeah, so this is this pretty town. Tour buses all day. So in my previous video I went to the archaeological site, which is just over in these fields here. But going up here to the museum, the history of the Olympic Games, so it should be quite interesting. Cost me €20 for a ticket to get into the other archaeological museum over that way, which gets you into all this park, and I think it includes this museum too, hopefully. Hi, does this get me in here?
Yes. One moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can start.
So these rings here, dating back to 1450 BC, 14th, 13th century BC, 14th, 13th century. I think it's about the oldest thing I've seen. Ah, well, I've seen dinosaurs in museums, I suppose. Yeah, so in ancient times, how we've got the calendar now, 2025, well, in ancient times it used to be revolve around the Olympic Games. So the first Olympic Games were held in 776 BC and carried on every 4 years until 393 AD, a period of 1169 years. So that's how the calendar used to be. It used to be the year of the 13th Olympic Games and all this sort of thing. So the duration of the games was directly related to the number of events from the beginning, 776 BC, when only athletic events were held. They lasted a single day from 680 BC, the 25th Olympiad, when chariot races were introduced. The period was increased to 2 days, and in 632 BC, the 37th Olympiad, with the introduction of the boys' events, a third day was added. Finally, 2 more days were added in 472 BC, on the 77th Olympiad, to ensure a smoother organisation of the events, making a total of 5 days. One of the most important institutions at Olympic Games was the sacred truce, the suspension of all hostilities between belligerents for a brief period before, during and after the end of the Games, to enable them to be conducted properly. Belief in this institution is reflected in the fact that, despite the continuous warfare in ancient Greece, the Olympic Games were never cancelled until they were finally abolished. Lost my place now. Finally abolished by the Roman Emperor Theodosius I. The athletes trained in 2 gymnasiums and 1 palaestra. Here they gave a practical demonstration that they knew and practiced the principle of fair play, which they had been taught in the gymnasia from which they come. During the month of preparation, judges were required to assign the athletes to categories. Originally, young men did not engage in special exercises but trained nude. Gymnasium derives from the Greek word gymnos, naked, simply by competing under the supervision of their tutor. Yeah, so shows the introduction of the different sports. First Olympiad, 776 BC, sprint, middle long distance race, pentathlon and wrestling, In 688 BC, boxing, 4-horse chariot race, equestrian events, boys foot race, boys pentathlon, boys boxing, 520 BC, race in armour. Race for chariots drawn by mules, 2-horse chariot race, 396 BC, competition for heralds and trumpeters, race for chariots drawn by 4 foals, race for chariots drawn by 2 foals, equestrian events for foals, boys pancration. The race in armour was a sprint in which the runners had to wear a helmet and greaves and carried a shield as they completed 2 and more rarely 4 lengths of the stadium. The greaves were abandoned in the 5th century BC and the helmet in the 4th century BC, after which the runners held only the heavy shield made of wood sheathed with bronze. Boxing was one of the oldest events. Opponents began by standing facing each other with their left arm extended to defend themselves and the right bent ready to deliver a punch. Essentially all the punches were thrown at the head. There was no time limit on the match and the athletes completed until one of the 2 fell unconscious or was obliged to submit and admit defeat. Marble statue of Zeus from 2nd century AD. It's a copy of one from 460 BC. Discus. Here's the Archimedes Museum. The first globe in history, 3rd century BC. Here's one for the flat earthers. Archimedes accurately calculated the number pi, 3.14, the surface and the volume of a sphere. Hipparchus divided spherical surfaces into 360 degrees. Eratosthenes accurately measured the periphery of the Earth and mapped the known world. Pytheas of Massalia explored and mapped the unknown at the time. Northwestern Europe up to the latitude where the sun does not set. Based on the above, they constructed a globe with a diameter of 2 metres and presented it in Pergamon around 150 BC. Good old catapult. I'll walk straight past that, it's an auger. Yes, I hope you enjoyed that video from the ancient town of Olympia with so much history. It's really been an eye-opener here. Walking in the footsteps of greats from 2,500 years ago. Alexandra the Great was here. It's just amazing, and I got to run my own race at on the marathon track, the Olympic track I should say, not marathon. So thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.